to the April 1st meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And welcome. Had several executive sessions earlier this evening. We have no public hearings. Any announcements from the board?
Nope, I do.
Yep.
Next Tuesday is our first luncheon, senior luncheon at the Lions Club instead of the Snowmobile Club. A bit more accessibility for the folks and a paved driveway versus the mud bowl that we had last time we had the dinner. So April 8th, noon time.
Yep.
And what's the meal? Is it spaghetti, right?
Spaghetti.
Okay. Anything else, Gary?
And we can seat about 70 people, so come on down.
Come on down, that's right.
Any additions or deletions to the agenda? We have no.
9A, right?
9A is going to be
Reschedule.
off. We have no appointments. Any public comment? Correspondence, we do have the financial reports. If anybody's interested, please reach out to the website or to one of the staff here. We'll get you a copy of that. Selectmen's reports. Dwayne, anything?
I got nothing this week.
David?
I'm all set, thank you.
Gary?
Old Home Days committee meetings have been going on. Everything's planned. We're adding a couple more members to the committee. Our newest one is a bakery owner, which is a really good plus for the committee. Does anybody on the committee want to address us while you're here? Amy? No? Okay. But they're doing a great job.
Okay. John, anything?
Nope.
And I am all set. Swing it over to you, Tom. Matt.
So, obviously on the agenda later on, you have the York County, but we did receive the tax assessments slightly higher. It's on your agenda for later on. I took an opportunity to meet with County Commissioner Donna Ring last week. We had our discussions regarding the contract deputy positions. I think we are all well aware of what her position was, but her beliefs that the York County should be providing adequate patrol coverage for the rural towns. Unfortunately, she does not appear to be having any traction with that with the other commissioners. If you have issues or concerns, she encourages you to send those things along to the county for discussion at meetings in the future. But I think we already knew where the position was. You've already talked about the senior luncheon. Boiler replacement at the Old Town Hall has been completed last week by Brochu Plumbing and Heating. We still have received no applications or no new applications for per diem, but we have had a bunch of new juniors sign up on the call department, the fire station. Some of you may have heard, but for many years, Waterboro was engaged with Jensen and Baird, the law firm for our legal services. The firm has recently decided to no longer focus on municipalities. I met with Ben today, and essentially, he's been our primary contact with the firm, but it looks like we'll be transitioning to Drummond and Woodsum over the next month and a half to 2 months, as Jensen and Baird will be dissolving with their municipal side and those services. Ben's been working with the town for several years for land use, but it will also open us up to other attorneys at Drummond and Woodsum that we can utilize. This will be the last meeting, just as a reminder, this will be the last meeting that we'll be using the workspace for the Board of Selectmen packets. Moving forward, they'll all be posted on the Google Doc share. Public Works garage updates. We had our staff site plan review meeting last Wednesday. That went well. We kicked that off, and we have a meeting tomorrow night with the planning board. We did post that 3 or more of you may attend that meeting tomorrow night. There's been site testing completed for both septic and core samples. And we've had several coordination meetings with Sebago Tech and other various vendors over the last couple of weeks. I think we're optimistically hopeful that we'll have this out to bid in the next month or less. That's it.
Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Jump right into new business. Discuss vote to, well, we're skipping 9A. Discuss vote on updated York County estimate tax assessment. There is an attachment for agenda item 9B. I'm just amazed at Waterboro's share of this tax. We're evidently larger than the town of Berwick, the town of Buxton, the town of Elliott, North Berwick, South Berwick. So maybe we need to, I guess, challenge our state valuation.
Which is $1,536,550,000.
Right. Rounded.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
So we're on the hook for $607,809.87, which is 2.48% of the entire county tax, and it's increased about 2.14%. So we have in the budget
580.
document 580, so this is $27,000 in change.
Yeah, 810, yeah.
Over that, so we probably need to make an adjustment in the annual warrant or the budget document. To the 607,000. So how do we want to appropriate?
We could pull a new field and tell them we didn't budget it, so we ain't gonna pay it.
Yeah, let's not do that. Although it sounds good.
I did send a message, I communicated with the budget committee, and they were in favor of the updated estimate amount that was provided from York County at this point. And if you're inclined to do that as well, we can update the budget document. And that will represent $9,766,933 as your grand total.
633,
633, right?
yeah. You said 933, 633.
633.
Sorry.
What's your pleasure?
I really don't see what option we
I was gonna
have.
say, we haven't
We
got
haven't
much
got an
options,
option, so we have to make the adjustment.
You make it a motion, David?
I am making that a motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I do think that we need to challenge the state valuation.
Yeah.
And those numbers are mind-boggling, to say the least. I don't understand where that comes from, looking at them, but
Well, and I checked on the state treasurer's, in the projection of what we're gonna get for revenue sharing, and all of those values agree with the state treasurer's valuation.
so the state checks in the mail.
Right.
I did change it, now, I do see it.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
All right, So, there's no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? All right. Discuss and vote to sign the annual municipal warrant. And I would prefer to just go through this by article. Article 1 is, do we still elect a moderator?
Yep.
Or,
It's there. We will see, so, just a.
We checked into it.
huh?
Oh, it's that.
Go ahead.
Never.
So, we will see some changes next year because of the change in the charter. And some of these things will change and be cleaned up, that we won't have as, there's some percentages, some stuff that the council will have more of a look of, which you might see in Gorham, you'll do resolutions and a proclamation or something from the board, or orders of the board, versus some of the stuff we do today. It's housekeeping that the board will take care of.
So, Article 1 is to elect a moderator. Article 2 is to elect by secret ballot the following 2 town councilors, which will be the new terminology as of July 1st. So 3-year terms. 1 RSU 57 Board of Directors for a 3-year term. 1 RSU 57 Board of Directors for a 1-year term, and we still run the Water District vote, right? So,
Yes.
and there's a 3-year term. So Article 3 is, shall the town vote to authorize the purchase of a new pumper tanker truck to finance said purchase through the lease purchase agreement to the tune of $779,000. Debt service would be $1,046,000. 779 is principal and at a 5.76 interest rate.
Estimated now.
So estimated, and it would be over a 10-year process. So unless we want to change it, the Board of Selectmen would recommend ought to pass. And if everybody's okay with that, then I'll move on to the next article.
And just, if I could just reiterate that, this is permission for us to order one. We're probably gonna see it in 3 years.
Yeah, it'll probably be two plus.
This would, you would order it, and the financing would be established, because once it's ordered, we'd lock in for that interest rate, because otherwise we'd lose that interest rate.
Right.
Locked it in, it's a payment in the rear, so we wouldn't see a payment for a year out.
And there is a follow-on financial statement, which Matt is responsible for. Article 4, shall the vote to raise and appropriate 3.406,154 for government expenditures for the year 2026. And that's all spelled out. It's up about $160,000 from last year. Last year was 2.245 million. This year is 3.4254 million. This year it's 3.413 million. So.
You're gonna add in that county tax in there.
Yeah, that'll have to be, boom, boom.
That's in there.
Oh, it's in there. So,
Okay, yeah.
it's 607,810. So unless we want to change it, the Board of Selectmen is recommended ought to pass. Budget Committee also recommended ought to pass. Article 5 is to raise and appropriate $26,000 for the town councilor's salary for FY '26. Currently, it's FY '25 is $26,000. Town administration recommends $26,000. So, again, unless we want to change it, it's a recommendation of the Board of Selectmen ought to pass, and also the Budget Committee ought to pass. Article 6, $275,201 for the tax assessor, CEO, planning board, planning department, zoning board of appeals for FY '26. So the bottom line is we're down about $11,000. Current year's is $286,000. We're going to $275,000. And again, Board of Selectmen recommendation is ought to pass. Budget Committee's recommendation is ought to pass as well. Article 7 is appropriate $603,000 for the Waterboro Library Recreation Department for FY '26. As denoted below, we're up about $50,000. Current budget is $54,000. We're going to $603,000. And again, unless we want to change it, the Board of Selectmen recommends ought to pass. Budget Committee is also recommending ought to pass. Article 8 is $2.13,874,000 for trash disposal transfer station, Public Works for FY '26. Current is $2,071,000. We're going to $2,138,704. And again, Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. The Budget Committee recommendation is ought to pass as well. Article 9 is $757,410 for the contract snow plowing services. That is the contract, so we're $742,560 today. We're going to $757,410 next year. And again, Board of Selectmen recommendation is ought to pass. Budget Committee is also recommended ought to pass. Town vote to raise and appropriate $118,500 for capital improvements. Current equipment is, well, this is a new article, right?
Yeah.
So we're adding $118,500. And again, the Board of Selectmen recommends ought to pass. Budget Committee also recommends ought to pass. Improvements for fire department trucks so that 2015 can be relocated to the transfer station, loader, and a new backhoe for the Department of Public Waste, Department of Public Works loader. Article 11, shall the town vote to raise approximately $42,000 for building improvements, capital plan for FY '26. This is a new number of $42,000. Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Budget Committee also recommends ought to pass. Explanatory note, improvements of repairs to the library's electrical service, seal coating in the library, recreation, town hall parking lots, maintain our current paving, per the auditor's recommendations to raise and transfer an additional $10,000 to reserve building fund. Article 12, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $231,831 for upgrading roads to the capital improvement budget for FY26. $231,831. Recommendation of the Board of Selectmen is ought to pass. Recommendation of the Budget Committee is ought to pass. This will put improvements to Culvert and Middle Road, paving New Dam Road, and paving the transfer station. Shall the town vote to raise $1,848,782 for the fire department EMS services for FY26? There's additional language in there, but the bottom line is we're up $1,794,963 to $1,848,782, so about $100,000 up. Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Budget Committee recommends as well ought to pass. There's an explanatory note. Any EMS revenues more than $20,000 go into the capital improvement fund. Article 14, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $200,000 for the contract deputies, police services for FY26, as detailed below. Contract deputies salaries, our current budget is $262,346. The recommendation is to go to $200,000 even. Majority of the Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Budget Committee recommend ought to pass as well. My concern is unless
Mr. Chairman,
unless the contract is rewritten, my vote would be to change this to ought not to pass.
at this time, I would like to make a motion to change this to ought not to pass with several reasons why not, but my motion is to change it to ought not to pass.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, little explanation. We're currently not getting what the original contract called for. Every time, and if you look at FY25 budget, it's $262,000. We're backing that off to $200,000. And when they get pulled out of town, we don't end up paying for that. But we're not getting, I think when we sorted everything out, we're getting about 54, 55 hours out of 80 that we're contracted for. And to me, that's just not what the program.
And at this point, it's a double taxation
Right.
with the county because they're supposed to be supplying us with county coverage and our taxes are going up another 200 and some thousand in county taxes, and
And for the listening public, if you all are here, we've had meetings with the sheriff's office, with their command staff about our concerns. And I first brought this up, I think, last summer when the contract came up, that we have 2 contracted deputies that are supposed to be dedicated to our town. But when we got the bill in, it's supposed to be quarterly bills and there should be a certain amount of money. Well, they're not billing us for the whole amount of money. It's like, why is that? It's because they're using the deputies that are supposed to be dedicated for our town to handle calls elsewhere. And in the contract, it said that they do emergency, they can leave, and I'm all for that. I mean, if our guys in Waterboro are closer to something bad going down in Lyman or Limerick, send them. But this isn't it. It's just routine calls to try to take the burden off the rest of the patrol zones. And that's not what we're paying for. That's not why the voters wanted these 2 contract deputies for 80 hours. We're not getting 80 hours. We have no say on their schedule. When we have town functions, it's like pulling teeth to get them to come to one of our town functions while a contract deputy is working. There was one instance that really caught our attention where our contract deputy was in a photo for an event in Lyman, but they couldn't come to ours. So that's kind of spurred our whole inquisition of why is this happening? They're short-staffed, we get it. That's why the town voted to have 2 people, so we could have extra coverage. And if the voters, I want to leave it up to the voters to decide. If they do it, great, fine, I have no objection to it. However, if they don't, we don't have it, we're still going to get covered. Waterboro is the nucleus of the county patrol area. I know that, I used to work there. And we're always going to have the guys, we have guys living in town. They're crossing through our town to go to Limerick, to Hollis, to Lyman, Dayton, wherever it may be, Alfred. So we're still going to have the guys around. But we want dedicated people for our town, and we're not getting it.
the other thing was our last town vote, we had to hire 2 contract deputies to cover the election, and our 2 contract officers had worked, both of them had worked that same day, but were somewhere else. They couldn't work our election, so the county just ain't working with us, so.
And that's where the concern is, at the county level, the deputies, this isn't an employee issue, this is at the county level from the contract perspective. The ability to work with them and coordinate the schedules, like Gary said.
Home days.
We are treated differently than the school SRO. The contracts are completely different. We ask for that. We want to be treated the same as a school, have flexibility with the schedule. We're not able to get to that point. There is nothing against the deputies that are working for Waterboro right now. We work well with them. I think they've done what they can to increase visibility. I think their hands are tied for what they can do for us at this point. We've had visibility. We've been seeing them at meetings. We're seeing fairly decent monthly activity for the most part, in the last couple of months since we've had these conversations. But our issue is the contract language, and that's what we're having meeting the resistance with.
So it's up to the taxpayers to decide whether they want this or not, and I don't feel that we're getting the service, and I think it's double taxation.
John, any comment? I would call for a vote. All those in favor of recommendation of ought not to pass, raise your hand. All those opposed, and I am assuming that you're abstaining.
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Yes.
So, majority of the Board of Selectmen recommend ought not to pass. Okay, Article 15, $99,000 for miscellaneous committees, including Old Home Days Committee, miscellaneous agencies, miscellaneous committees. So we're talking about 99,047. Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Budget Committee also recommends ought to pass. Article 16, traditional language, it allows the registration of fees derived from registration of snowmobiles to put in a separate account for the maintenance of fire roads for the year ensuing, with approval of the fire chief, public works director, and representation from the snowmobile club. And again, the Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Article 17 is language that allows us to collect 7.5% per year on unpaid taxes beginning the day after the due date. And that's set by the state. And again, the Board of Directors, Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Shall town vote to interest of 3.5% on abated property taxes per 36 M.R.S.A. subsection 506A, and again, it's set by the state. Do we need to put that definition in Article 17 above?
You really don't need, according to the attorney, you don't need Article 17, that will go away.
Okay,
That's by, the board actually has the authority to do that now.
okay. Article 19 is the town authorized tax collector to accept prepayments of taxes not yet committed per 36 M.R.S.A. subsection 506, and again, the Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Article 20 is again approval to authorize the Public Works Director with fiscal approval from the town manager to appropriate public funds for emergency winter maintenance should the rescue get called out and we're don't have sand or ice or plowed on the road. And that again is Board of Selectmen recommended ought to pass. Article 21. Should authorize the town council on behalf of the town to apply for and accept state and federal grants. Need to capitalize federal. From nonprofit organizations, donations, and revenues on behalf of the town for municipal purposes, including when necessary, the authority to sign grants, contracts, documents, and other paperwork to accept the conditions that accompany the grant funds and appropriate expended grant funds or funds for authorized purposes as the council deems the best interests of the town during the upcoming fiscal year. And again, the Board of Selectmen recommends ought to pass. Article 22. Carried forward balances from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26. There's a list, and that I won't go through the reading of that. Article 23 is to appropriate the sum of $4,990,827 from non-property tax revenues to be applied to reduce the tax commitment for FY26. So that's estimated at $4,990,000 $827. Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. The Budget Committee recommends ought to pass as well. Article 24, shall the town vote to authorize the town council to appropriate in an amount not to exceed $800,000 from unassigned fund balance surplus and $150,000 from an rescue billing account to be applied to the municipal budget for the purpose of reducing property taxes for FY26. Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. That is the end of the article. So I'd entertain a motion to approve with the amended budget of a recommendation of Article 14, and we'll move on and sign it.
So
As well as the
moved.
county tax rate.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
All I can say is we're trying our best to keep the taxes from going up, but your sad 57 and your county taxes are driving the taxes.
So, 9D is discuss vote on date for public hearing for the annual municipal budget. I think we can do that probably several times between, well, we probably would do it the 6th or the 20th of May.
Run them both.
Yeah, and just to follow up in case we have any recommendations from the 6th that need to be addressed on the 22nd.
When is this gonna be starting to be absentee?
Absentee ballots will be 30 to 45 days prior to the election.
So that backs up to the 10th,
Right after the 6th.
right? So we could have a follow-up on the 7th, the 20th, but it would mean absentee ballots
Well,
are
no,
already out.
absentee ballots are out, but I'm also thinking, I'm thinking ahead here, but we probably ought to set a candidates night. We've got school board members and whatnot, along with 2 selectmen, so.
We haven't done that for the last several elections
Right.
Right,
because of the lack of interest.
lack of interest is right.
Really.
Well,
So do you wanna do the
let's
6th?
talk about that the next meeting, which would be the 15th, right? On whether or not to consider a candidate's night.
But plan for the 6th for the hearing?
Yep.
Thank you.
Under old business, discuss a vote to appoint a member to the RSU 57 Board of Directors to fill the vacancy until the June election. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Lee to fill this vacancy until the June election.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Tom Lee is it. 11, other, discussion vote to accept the minutes of the March 18th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Pending decisions, you're all set. Week actions list, discussion of agenda items, let me know by the noon time on the 10th.
How soon will the warrant be ready for us to sign?
Right now, I just gotta go print it.
Oh,
Yep. So,
Got one correction, too.
No, I know, I've already done it.
Okay.
I've already done it.
Yeah.
so items needing signature was the annual municipal warrant. Other than that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
We like it, there's no seconds.
John seconded. Yeah. I heard him mumble.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Good night.